Hey, my name's Kris Garcia. I'm 25 years old. I've been coming to Faith Heights Church since before it was Faith Heights Church. It used to be called World Harvest, and it was over in a different location. I would think I was about 4 or 5 years old when my parents brought us to this church. They got married in this church. I got married in this church. My sister got married in this church. So we've been here for a while. But when I was younger, I didn't really want, anything that, God wanted in my life. I went through a lot of stuff, and a lot of it was, because of me, because of what I was doing. And, here's my testimony, pretty much. So for years, I struggled with the sexual addiction. I was addicted to pornography. I remember from a very young age, these desires and this lust got a hold of me, and it all started with pornography. It was a gateway to a lot of things. It was a door, and it opened a lot of things. Negative things came in my life because of it. And it took me places that I didn't, want to go. I didn't realize at the time exactly what it was doing to me, but, to my life. But, throughout all high school, I struggled with pornography. And after I think I turned 19, it got worse because, I wanted something more. I couldn't just watch, pornography no more. I wanted, something more. I wanted, I had these fantasies in my head, and, so I started pursuing, different women, sleeping with different girls, having different girlfriends, which then led into sleeping with escorts and spending a lot of time at the strip clubs. It was pretty much like my second home. I'd be there a lot, and so I was living out these fantasies that I had in my head, and any way I could get it, I would. I was addicted. It was an addiction in my life. Sex was my drug of choice, and there's a lot of women, and I won't name a number because it really don't matter. It was enough though. And it's, by the mercy of God that I didn't catch anything. I remember being in the doctor's office, just bawling my eyes out because, I was scared to death that, I had something, and, because the women I was sleeping with, and, not all of them were escorts, but, some of them were, a lot of them were. Like I said, it was my drug of choice, and like a crackhead has a needle, an alcoholic has beer. An addiction is an addiction. No matter what the substance is, and it's so I'm doing all this stuff. I'm sleeping with all these other women, and while I'm doing that, I got myself into a serious relationship with. She was my girlfriend then, but she's my wife now. We got into a serious relationship. We started having kids, and so I started living this secret life, pretty much lying to her and to the people closest to me for years. And I tell myself that I was okay, that it's all good, and I didn't need no help. And the more I try to fill myself with this addiction, the emptier I got. There was no satisfaction, in the next hookup. Besides the instant, gratification from it, because I thought, the more I fill myself with it, the better I feel, because it made me feel good at the time, and it feels good. But the complete, opposite happened. I always wanted more. It was like an itch I couldn't scratch, or like a hunger that, I couldn't satisfy. And so it took me into, this pit, and there's no words to describe, really how the level of depression that I was in, or like how worthless I felt, how ashamed I felt, how guilty I felt because of what I was doing. And you know, I was bound by chains of lust. I mean, I was in a prison, in a pit, and you know, I was lying to everyone around me, to, you know, the mother of my children. And over the years, I dug myself deeper and deeper, you know, into this pit. And I tried to get on medication, you know, because I couldn't eat. I couldn't even sleep. And most days, you know, I couldn't even look myself in the mirror. And my conscience was, you know, eating me alive. And I was broken. And so, you know, I was trying to get on this medication, and it stopped working. You know, it worked for maybe a week or two, and, you know, it stopped working. I got on medication to deal with, like, the anxiety, and, you know, so I could sleep, and I just wanted to be numb. I didn't want to feel nothing. I wanted to, you know, I was running away from it. I didn't want to face it, and, you know, so the medication, it stopped working. And right about that time, for like the last year that I was in this addiction, the Lord started speaking to me about being honest with the people closest to me, some like sacrificial honesty, because, you know, it's gonna hurt, and it did hurt. You know, it hurt, you know, people around me, and I'm gonna lose some things. And, you know, I did lose some things, some respect from some people, some relationships. And so, you know, that scared me. And then also, you know, the possibility of me losing, you know, obviously, like, my wife. She was my girlfriend then, and I mean, I didn't deserve her or nothing, but not only her, but she's a good woman, but my kids. So I grew up without a dad, and I got a son, and you know, the thought of that, it just hurts me, because I know what it feels like to not have your dad being around. And so that's, you know, one reason why I was like, I was running from it, is because, you know, which wasn't right at all. It was no excuse. And so I fought it for as long as I could. You know, I did what I could, and, you know, I couldn't fight it no more. And so, you know, I didn't want to do it, but, you know, I did. I ended up, you know, coming clean with mainly the mother of my children, and then a few other people closest to me. And the night I did it, I didn't really even plan on doing it. It just came out. I was like, we were kind of arguing a little bit, and I was like, hey, I need to tell you something. And I froze. I was just paralyzed by fear. And it took me about 10, 15 minutes to actually get it out, and I was shaking. I even threw up. I was crying. I mean, I was a mess, and that was probably one of the hardest things I had to do, you know, to this day. And so I told her, you know, everything, and, you know, the glass was just shattered, you know, everywhere. And, you know, everybody was getting hurt. You know, I hurt a lot of people, the people that, you know, care for me. And a lot of, you know, the people closest to me were disappointed, you know, 'cause I mean, I could see it in their eyes, and, you know, they had every right to be, you know. And the next month was rough. Every night when, you know, I came home from work, I worked nights, so I'd come home pretty late, and my wife would be, you know, she didn't really talk to me for a while, which, you know, she felt betrayed, and, you know, she was broken, and she came from, you know, a past of, you know, abusive relationships. And she thought with me, you know, it was gonna be a little different, although I never, you know, actually laid my hands on her. You know, I broke her, you know, inside. And, you know, it's hard for me to talk about, but, you know, every night, so I'd come home from work, and I'd hear, you know, crying and sobbing in the bathroom, and, you know, that tore me up. You know, that's, you know, when I started to realize how my, you know, my actions were affecting the people around me. 'Cause I cared for her, she was one of the girls, growing up that, I actually liked, I cared for her, I loved her, even though it was, back then, it was twisted in a twisted way. I did love her, and, so, I didn't know what to do. After I told her, I was like, whatever you want to do, like, you don't want to be with me no more, we'll do whatever you want to do going forward, I'll give you your space, whatever. And I did everything I could. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to pick up the pieces. So, I just gave it all to God. I was like, Lord, help me. I can't do this, by myself. I need your help. And, mercy fell on me, and mercy fell on, my situation, our situation. The mercy of God is so powerful. And, over time, things got better between us. It took time, but, things did get better between us. We, ended up getting married and, living right, because I wasn't, gonna live in sin no more. We were already living together. And I told her, I gave her some time, and I told her, look, if we're gonna be together, we're gonna get married, because, I'm not gonna live in sin no more. I don't wanna be right in my Father's eyes. And she was still broken, and she felt betrayed, like I said, and she didn't know what to do either. And so she gave it to God too, and by the power of God, I believe that is how she forgave me. And I can honestly say today, our relationship is better than it ever has been. It got a lot better after I did what the Lord wanted me to do. He restored our relationship, and He made it better. And love, chased me down and picked me up out of that pit. And because I was bound by that's how I felt, by chains and shackles of lust, and the chains broke off. I wasn't addicted no more. After I did what the Lord wanted me to do, everything, I was free. There was some true freedom in there. I didn't want that no more. I was a different person inside. There's a few verses in the book of Psalms. It says 107 verse 10. It says, some of you were prisoners, suffering in the deepest darkness and bound by chains, because you had rebelled against God and refused His advice. You were worn out like working slaves, and no one came to help. You were in serious trouble, but you prayed to the Lord, and He rescued you. He brought you out of the deepest darkness and broke your chains. You should praise the Lord for His love and for the wonderful things He does for all of us. He breaks down bronze gates and shatters iron locks. Some of you had foolishly committed a lot of sins and were in terrible pain. The very thought of food was disgusting to you, and you were almost dead. You were in serious trouble, but you prayed to the Lord, and He rescued you. By the power of His own word, He healed you and saved you from destruction. And those verses hit me hard. I was a prisoner. I was suffering. I called on the Lord, and He rescued me by the power of His word. He saved me from my destruction. And, in my opinion, lust is, Satan's greatest weapon against men nowadays. It's all over. You look at this on the TV, it's on the movies, it's on the commercials, it's even on some cartoons. And growing up with a bunch of, brothers and all my friends, half the stuff we talk about would be, sex, because, it's everywhere. It's, everywhere in this generation, and I just want my story to be like a beacon of hope in a world full of lust, because there is freedom from addiction, any kind, and the love of God is powerful, and it is life-changing.